Hello, everyone. This is Jorge Diaz, president and founder of Larry Jacob Internet Marketing, and this week's episode of How Do You Describe Infusionsoft Success? My guest today is Josh Earl. Josh is someone I met online, through, I want to say it was Facebook. As a matter of fact, we were talking before, we started recording, and I can't remember exactly how we connected, but Josh's email started showing up in my email box every day. It was a campaign that he started earlier in the fall, and I was very impressed with the writing style. It's just very effective, very engaging. I'm one of those guys that doesn't unsubscribe from stuff, but his is the kind of stuff that I actually enjoy reading, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So Josh, introduce yourself, tell people a little bit more about what you're about, what you do.
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me on. It's been great getting to know you. So I'm a direct response copywriter. I specialize in email marketing primarily. I have been pursuing this for about 3 years now. Got into email marketing. Really just kind of fell into it, honestly. I was at the time I was working as a programmer, and I self-published my own ebook, and I had no plan to sell this other than I thought I would just put it out there and make tons of money off of it. And I was doing a little bit of research on how to launch a book, and everybody kept saying email, email, email. So I started capturing some email addresses before the launch, and then when I actually did launch, I noticed that almost all of my sales came from email. And even though I had thousands of Twitter followers at the time, almost nothing from Twitter, and 95% of my sales came from email. So at that point, I kind of realized, oh, okay, there's something to this. And
so you actually, it's not like you studied it. You saw the numbers, and by the way, my numbers are the same. I actually, I keep a very active Twitter feed, but only kind of out of a habit. Because I've never seen much results. I do get a lot of results from LinkedIn and Facebook because I've got some groups that I participate in. But being an Infusionsoft consultant and marketing consultant in that space, email is what myself and a lot of the Infusionsoft audience is about.
Yeah, sometimes I feel a little defensive when I'm promoting email to people, and I have to remind them the reason I'm not promoting this because I'm an email copywriter. I'm an email copywriter because I saw that this works.
Yeah, it's the other way around. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, this comes up all the time in conversations I have. Oh, I hate email. It's like, you may hate email, but you open them and you actually respond to them. The facts are there. I think the challenge we have as folks either marketing ourselves or helping, our clients market themselves is how do you get noticed, right? How do you, differentiate yourself from everybody else that's fighting for our attention?
Yeah, and email is really is the best way to do that. Social media. What I found is that social media is great for kind of making initial contacts with people like you and I. I think we met on LinkedIn, actually. I think I might have checked out your profile and maybe contacted you.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
And then you kind of checked my profile out, and then you signed up for my email list, and that's kind of the natural flow, and that's really how the bonding can happen. It's
right. So you're not a spammer. You're correct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've ever knowingly added anyone to my email list against their will.
Or beg forgiveness later. But you're right. You approached me. I think you sent me an in message or an in mail in LinkedIn, and that's how it started. And I did overtly sign up because I tell you what. One thing I find is a lot of folks in our space, will say, "Do you know a good copywriter?" And what ends up happening, the good copywriters get taken up very quickly. There's just not enough of you guys around.
Yeah, yeah, and we also tend to be pretty expensive, and there's a good reason for that. And in my case, the real reason for that is just the amount of time and background work that goes into putting together a good email campaign. To write effectively in someone's voice, I have to get to know their market inside and out, and I have to get to know their product. And they have potentially have years of time that they've spent studying the people that they serve. Absolutely. and they know their product really well, and I have to basically give myself a crash course in that in 2 or 3 weeks.
Right. So let's get down. We got a lot of people in here. It's like, okay, great, George's got a copywriter on here. So what do you think are like the keys? I'm selling a widget, and who knows what it is. Where do you start, or what's key as I bring on a copywriter, or as I try to do the copywriting myself?
So the biggest, most important factor in this whole thing is first of all, your list and your understanding of your list. So if you're looking to hire a copywriter, that's one thing you should be definitely looking for, is someone who's asking you questions about your list, how you built your list, what has your list heard from you, how often have they heard from you, what have they responded to, who are they, like that kind of avatar stuff is really, really important. That's the number one determinant of the success of any campaign.
Okay, so your relationship with the list.
Yeah, your relationship with the list, and also just who they are. So if you're looking to sit down to try to write some copy for yourself, you need to have a really crystal clear picture of who those people are in your mind. And I find that most people have never really thought that through to the level of detail that they need to. So it can be a matter of, if you are a salesperson, you're actually probably in a good position because you've talked to dozens or hundreds of people in your market. So salespeople tend to know this stuff a little better. You have to kind of sometimes tease it out of them. But a lot of business owners, especially startups and small business owners, they don't really have a good, clear picture of who they're serving. And the worst is when you hear them say, "Oh, everyone's my customer."
Yeah, that's a death blow.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that, because I've been recording a number of video scripts. I'm running some campaigns online targeting either small business owners, and another one at Infusionsoft folks. And the guy that's helping me with that, he's really focused on that specifically, and he wants me, is it male, female? What's the age group? What kind of business do they run? And actually name them, so that as you're writing it and actually performing it, in front of a camera, that you're talking to someone specifically, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of a hack with email marketing is if you're going to write an email, when you sit down to write, you want to be writing to a person. You don't want to have this amorphous cloud of people out there, and you're just sort of like throwing this at a whole bunch of people. It's written to a person, and sometimes some of the language that you might use in a broadcast email you wouldn't necessarily say to a person, but overall the way that you structure it should be the way that you'd talk in a conversation.
Gotcha. So you've got either initial sales page that's talking like that, and just I wanted to highlight this, for the people that are watching. On Thanksgiving Day, Josh released this email, which was about what kind of turkey are you? And and that's probably not exactly what the title was, but it was there are some turkeys that are fat, dumb, and happy. They get fed every morning. They really come to love their every time the farmer comes out, or however they feed these turkeys in these mass-produced environments. These guys are real happy until like Wednesday before Thanksgiving, when things are a real bummer for them.
Yeah.
So it's that comfortable, let's just rely, and kind of the parallel of I'm getting a steady paycheck. And then you describe, stuff I didn't know about turkeys, that these suckers can fly 50 miles an hour, they can run 20 miles an hour, and hunting them, I'm from Florida, we don't have wild turkeys around here, but they're hard to catch, and those guys have to earn their feed every single day. So you're kind of contrasting the guy who gets a paycheck every day versus the entrepreneur that doesn't get that steady paycheck, but they're kind of preparing themselves for when things are bad, when things are worse, and hopefully things eventually get better, right?
Yeah, exactly. And really the purpose of that email, every once in a while I like to do an email to my list that's really just kind of pure bonding. I understand what you're going through. I'm going through it too. We're in this together, and that's really what the purpose of that email was. Because as anybody who runs their own business or is an entrepreneur, you're a pretty rare breed. Like, there are not that many people out there, and it's actually kind of a dying breed in America. Like, fewer and fewer people are interested in running their own businesses.
Really?
And it's interesting because there is a strong culture of entrepreneurship. But they've polled kind of, especially the millennial generation, folks after me, and they're less and less interested in starting their own businesses. Like, I forget the statistics exactly, but I saw a study from the 60s, and like something like 70% of U.S. adults had purchased some kind of like self-help or entrepreneurship book.
Okay.
And so that market, the self-help and kind of entrepreneurship, has actually shrunk a lot. It's a fraction of what it was.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. And by the way, now that I see, because I didn't really read that email in light of your framework, but when you think of writing a sales letter, at the top you have your headline, your abstract, and there's a spot right underneath there where you really have to do that connecting. It's kind of like, why me? Because been there, done that. I can relate to you, and hopefully then as you move farther down and explain what you're offering, it's kind of like, look, I can trust this guy, or at least I like him because he's a lot like me.
Exactly.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit about. So before you were telling me that you're kind of part of a startup now. You've joined up with another partner, and then like all copywriters, you don't really have time to be doing too much freelancing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's a period. So Perry Marshall likes to say there's a period with most marketing consultants where you can only get them at an affordable rate for about 2 years. In my case, I'm a pretty good networker, so I've actually cut that in half. And I'm pretty much I'm not quite off the market, I wouldn't say, but I have a client that I just did this launch with a client. He had this digital product that he'd created about 2 years ago. I've known this guy for a while, and he created this digital product about 2 years ago, and his initial intent was to use it as a lead magnet. And I was like, look, dude, this is too much for a lead magnet. It should be a product, and you should sell it for $97. So 2 years go by, and then he's like, hey, Josh, why don't you help me? I want to launch this thing. And we talked. We're like, okay, let's sell it for $97. So it's like, right. 2 years later. So now this guy, his market is interesting because it's an extremely skeptical market. Okay. He sells to software developers who absolutely hate, more than almost any market you can imagine, software developers are hostile to marketers and would like to drag us out into the street. And
and by the way, I got a computer science degree. That's I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
and I'm a very non-impulsive buyer. It's kind of classic, I want to say.
Very analytical. You want to know all the facts. You want to be pushed. You want to take your time to make the decision. So he's got this course that he put together, this video course, and so my challenge was to help him sell this to his list. He's got about 15,000 people on his list, and so what I decided to do is I took a very story-based approach. The emails that I wrote were kind of a lot like the ones I write for my list. They're very like the focus was entertainment and stories, and using stories to persuade instead of coming at them with a pitch, which they would completely reject it. So it was actually a blast. This campaign was a blast to put together. So the first couple of emails, I actually told his story. When he first started as a software developer, the course was about how to learn effectively, because for software developers, we're in this environment where everything is changing minute by minute, and you have to learn, like, just to be able to keep your job next week. You have to learn.
You're learning then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so he had this great story about how he had he kind of bluffed his way into his first job as a C++ programmer, and then decided he needed to learn C++, obviously, and he went about it all wrong and ended up struggling, and then he got fired.
Okay.
So it was like this,
So this is the story you're writing about this, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow,
I made this story. Yeah, I know, and it didn't. The funny thing is that most businesses have these stories and they don't recognize it.
Right.
He did not know this until I teased it out of him. I was like, okay, we started talking about his history of learning. Like, I was like, tell me about a time when you struggled to learn something. And so, oh my goodness, I was learning C++ and I had this huge book, and blah 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 blah. And and by the way, I got fired. And I was like, whoa, what?
That was great material.
Yeah. It was perfect. And so I wrote the first email, kind of set it up, and I ended it with like a teaser, a cliffhanger, next time, by the way, I made this mistake too, and next time I'll tell you about how I got fired. And when that email went out, his inbox blew up. People were like, I can't wait. Like, what happens next? So that could be a really effective technique, that cliffhanger. It's called an open loop in copywriting. And then the next email, I told that story. And then we kind of gradually worked from, we had to change the conversation so that people were thinking about this learning issue. And then we kind of walked it towards, there were a couple more steps we walked it towards, and here's this course that you can buy that will show you how to learn more effectively. And the launch did really, really well. He got a ton of great feedback. People were really excited about the emails, and the launch revenue blew away but what both of us were expecting from it.
Did you guys do a lot of split testing, or?
No, it's tough to do. Honestly, it's tough to do a lot of split testing with a launch like this.
Yeah, and especially because of what, are you going to change the story? I mean, what are the
variables, right? It's so compressed. It's a compressed time frame. I mean, I think we spread it out over about 6 days, six or 7 days, and you don't really have time to make any adjustments. You need, for split testing, you really need to have high steady volume of traffic.
Yeah, so that you can do the statistics on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Oh. And honestly, most email software makes it really difficult to do effective split testing.
Yeah, where you send half the people one message versus another.
Yes. Yep.
Wow. Well, that's cool. You were mentioning that you had to kind of pull it out of them.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of website development, and one thing I find is even with my brother, we're rebuilding my brother's site, and he hired a content developer. Thank God. Because he's a great sales guy. He sells furniture, partitions. He'll actually move office spaces. He's how to use your space effectively in a work environment. And you listen to him, and he's like a master at what he does. How do you use space better? The culture, it's really interesting stuff. But you go to his website, and we built it. It's actually very nice, but it doesn't tell that story.
Right.
Because he didn't have time to regurgitate. We were not hired as copywriters. Now that he has it, I just this week got a list of his first 10 to 20 blog topics that this other team is going to help him write. And I go, wow, these are standing desks. What's the big deal?
Right.
All these topics that a lot of people who buy furniture for their offices would care to read. And I just see there's a big gap between, you talk to someone and you hear what they say. Yeah. And then you look at what they have in their marketing material, website, and everything, and they're just completely disjointed.
Yeah, it's a really interesting disconnect, and it goes beyond marketing too. It's like just writing in general. Most people, when you talk to them and they're funny and they're personable and they've got all these great stories and they really know their stuff, and then they sit down to write, and it's like some kind of switch flips in your brain, and you sound wooden and boring and formal. And it's like, really, the key to writing well is to learn to yank that, kill that instinct, whatever it is, take it out back and shoot it, and just be you. And for some people, talking, actually just dictating, can be a good way to do that. For me, I've tried that, and it doesn't really work for me because I'm a writer, so it comes out more naturally for me to write it. But if a good way to write your first sales letter, if you've never written one before, is to just record yourself giving your pitch to customers, and then basically take the recording and clean it up. And that's a pretty good start at a good sales letter.
Yeah, and actually recording for a VSL, a video sales letter. It works really well. I'm a computer. I almost couldn't graduate from my master's program because I couldn't meet the writing requirement. My writing was so bad back in my early 20s. And, now I blog incessantly. My English teacher would probably be completely amazed. My stream of thinking is the good part. I just have to then have someone mop up my mess and edit it after the fact.
Right,
I don't have the patience to get the polish in there.
Exactly. Yeah. Turning off that internal editor though is the key.
Yeah. Because then you can get it out. Now, for a while there, last year I had a great like first in command that was like a good writer. And I'd write it just so far, and she would finish it. And it ended up being really good because she had the patience to do the editing. Now, I have people point out all my editing mistakes. I haven't fixed my process just yet. But well, that's great. That's kind of what I was hoping we could share, with each other. I'm glad I learned a little bit more about what you do, and maybe we'll have a chance to bring you on and help me edit or something. And of course, my computer just threw up something in front of both of our faces. Okay, we'll edit that out later. But hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think you're a great asset to the community, and keep those emails coming. I really enjoy it.
I most certainly will. Thank you.
Good. So with that, we'll say goodbye, and thank you for your time.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.